Welcome to the Lake Forest Podcast, a podcast about the lovely city of Lake Forest, featuring topics like local news, sports, music, people, food, and game time. My name is Pete, and I'm joined with the voice of Lake Forest High School basketball, football, lacrosse, chess team, Skoo Woo. The Lake Forest Podcast is supported by viewers, listeners, and businesses just like you. Looking for the best pool supplies? Look no further than Dohany's Pool Supplies. With a history dating back to 1967, this family-owned business offers everything families need to keep their pools clean and sparkling, from chemicals to equipment. Plus, customers enjoy free shipping on all orders. Visit Dohany's Pool Supplies today at doheny.com, DOHENY.com, to learn more. Forest Bluff Real Estate Team serves Illinois, Wisconsin, Lake Forest, and Lake Bluff. John Josephitis, Laura Lee Van Fleet, and of course, Michelle Parnell. Get a free market analysis now at forestbluffrealestate.com. For the best cannabis in the world, look no further than Iliad Epic Grow. Owned by Lake Bluff's own Rich Ruzich, they are a cannabis cultivation center focusing on hard-to-find small batch products that will delight both the occasional user and ganjier. When visiting Michigan, ask for it by name. Epic Products, exceptional process. For more information, email info@iliadgrow.com. Havey Communications has been helping first responders arrive safely since 1983. It's owned by Lake Forest's own Mike Havey. Check them out at haveycommunications.com. Paul Hamman, candidate for Lake Forest Mayor, April 4th, 2023. He's a lifetime resident of Lake Forest, licensed professional engineer in Illinois, registered energy professional in Chicago, Purdue Electrical Engineering graduate, BSEE 1979, commodity trader for over 40 years. He's running on the issues of stopping the plastic grass in Lake Forest parks, because every 10 years a plastic field needs to be replaced because of deterioration and wear. Email paul.hammond.pe@gmail.com. We'd also like to say we're thankful for our Patreon supporters: Matt A., Elizabeth C., Costa, Lance, Otto, RDM, John C., and Mike Adelman. Shout out to the Lake Forest Breakfast Group, Broad Stop and Captain Mike's in Kenosha, the Greentown Tavern, and the Frolic Lounge in Waukegan. Walker. How you doing, Skoo?
Morning, Pete. Morning, gentlemen.
Oh, today we have our political crack team of Joe Weiss and Rick Lesser joining us on this pre-election show.
You shaved, Rick?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I decided I lost 20 years, so it was a good deal.
Oh, you look good. You're
springtime. I'm out in Arizona. It's 78 degrees here. Very sunny. Very nice day.
Snowing cold here.
Well, it's crickets here in Lake Forest, right? Everybody's out of town. How the hell are we doing an election on spring break?
Yeah.
No, how does that? How the hell does that happen?
Set the date, not us.
It's a conspiracy.
No, conspiracy is Ward 3. What the hell? I'm in Ward 3 and I got to go to Vernon Hills to vote. What the frig is that? Who's keeping an eye on
Knollwood?
Or Knollwood. But I'm just going down my points.
Clerk of the court.
My understanding of what happened was Christchurch, which I'm a member of, politely said to the county clerk, "Look, it's Easter, it's Holy Week. We've got other things going on in our church," and I respect that. But I think the county clerk could have picked a venue closer to that. It's a new county.
You mean like the rec center, the golf course, or Ellowa?
Yeah,
where it used to be at Ellowa.
Yeah.
So who's keeping
I think.
All right, look, I'm just a podcast editing guy. Okay, I just happen to catch it. I'm like, I reach out to Aaron and I say, "Hey, Ward 3 dude, what?
Can't do anything about it."
I know, but who's keeping? Who? You got to raise flags earlier. How do we pay attention to this?
No one knew about it until you knew about it. That's the problem.
No.
And we got the letter. I live in Ward 3. We got the letter with the change of polling place, and I almost threw it away because I thought it was just the standard, hey, reminder, election day is on Tuesday.
As I'm like, the caucus, it's the county, Lake County. Clerk of the
Elections
court.
have consequences, and I think this new county clerk has got a lot of learning to do his job.
What's this
Lake
guy's name?
County
Vega?
Board, too.
Yeah, Vega. Yeah, he just took over from Robin O'Connor.
Vincent Vega.
Who O'Connor gets elected as a Democrat. She defeats Carla Wyckoff, Lake Forester, who is doing a great job as the county clerk. For no reason at all, the voters threw her out other than partisanship, and put in Robin O'Connor. And O'Connor then switches parties from Democrat to Republican, and then loses. And now this guy Vega's in.
Vincent
so
Vega.
It's Democrat du jour as the county clerk, and so no wonder there's some confusion going on.
So Vincent Vega, I'm throwing out the invite for you to explain yourself to come on the show. Please tell us your thought process on how.
Wasn't he in a movie?
The what?
He's in a movie, wasn't he?
Was it a movie?
I don't know, but it's
God,
okay. So
you guys are old.
Yes.
Vincent Vega. Quentin
no, but I mean,
Tarantino.
that's all right. So long story short, okay, we know about it. The show's coming out. Let's see. This will come out Saturday, which is what? Is that the first or the last day? What's the date on Saturday, Scoobert?
Probably the first. If the Friday's the 31st, I think that would mean Saturday is the first, and there's no joke about that.
No, no, the joke we'll be talking about later.
Vincent Vega.
So, Vincent Vega, thank you for the help, my friend.
Anthony Vega, for the record.
Oh, so see, that's why we got Joe here.
Fact check.
Somebody knows what's going on.
Obviously, not a Quentin Tarantino fan.
Pulp Fiction.
Do you even know who Quentin Tarantino is?
I do.
Yeah.
And I saw the movie.
Was it Pulp Fiction or Reservoir Dogs?
Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction. That's what I said. Okay.
Vincent Vega.
Okay. I'm sure everybody's.
That was John Travolta's character.
Vincent Vega
revitalized his career. All right. So, in all seriousness, the show's coming out. Go out and early vote unless you want to go to Vernon Hills. Anybody know where in Vernon Hills that's going to be?
2 spots.
2 spots.
One of them's White Deer Run, and some other spot.
What's White Deer Run?
White Deer Run's quite a drive from Lake Forest. I go there fairly often. Yeah,
that's what I believe is what it is. That's what I.
And you can, for what it's worth, you can go to the county clerk website and look up your polling place. You type in your address.
You just can't go to one of them. You have to go to the specific one where you
yeah. So if somebody's in a hurry, or it's 6:30 in the evening, it could be disenfranchised.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. I went up. I voted early at the county building. I was over there.
The Republicans wait till the last minute. So if you're conservative / Republican, this isn't the time to do that.
No.
Just go to City Hall and vote. It takes 2 seconds. Well, you can't.
I did. My whole family has.
Well, you can't anymore. You can't.
Can't anymore, right?
If this comes out, it's already closed.
Yeah.
Early voting. Doesn't early voting end on Friday before the election?
Well, April 1st, but yeah, Friday basically.
That's how they ran into problems in Arizona. The last election, they allowed early voting right up until the Monday before the election. And they ended up with so many ballots that were received that they couldn't count them all in time. And so Arizona was still trailing, and it still had undecided vote elections for a week afterwards. It was a disaster.
Now, hold on. I'm not the most religious guy in the world, okay? And I'm trying to become more political savvy here. But, Joe, how long has Easter been going on?
This has been a challenge I've worked in a lot of municipal elections over the years. The Easter consolidated election dynamic has been one that has played out many times over the years. Sometimes, like if Easter Sunday is before the election, you run into, that whole weekend, Holy Weekend, and particularly the Sunday, people don't want to, people like to go door to door before an election and campaign, but it's like, hey, it's Easter. You can't knock on doors on Easter Sunday.
So why do it at a church?
The church, I don't want to blame the church on this. And again, maybe I'm a little biased because I'm a member.
I'm
blaming the church.
Remember, the other problem you have here is years ago.
Why shouldn't we blame the church, Joe? Come on, stick up for your church. I know because you go there.
They made a decision that, hey, we need the facilities. You don't just, the election equipment doesn't just show up on Tuesday morning and get unpacked and put out there. They have to put it out there.
Again, the question still stands, Joe. I'm sorry to talk all over you, but how long has Easter been going on?
I understand. And that's why the church said, hey,
a long time. So the church said, hey, I'm sure they got a hold of Vincent Vega prior. Right. I'm just
well, hang on, Pete. Let me add to that.
Take over, Skoo, please.
I think the church knew back in November, since they did have the capabilities to vote there in November, they did know they were going to do it come April. So why was this a last minute decision?
No, because I think this is where the county clerk, screwed up. The county clerk knew. Church notified the county clerk way before that. The county clerk should have notified residents before that, and more importantly, the county clerk should have found better venues.
The church should have said in November or December, we're not going to do it this year. Not at the last minute. They had plenty of time to turn it down. They knew when Easter was and all that.
Well, we don't know when they turned it down. That's the only part of it.
Hey, you know what?
I can find
Don't
that
do
out.
this at a church. Why do it at a church?
Hey, it's their bill. It's the church's building. It's up to them. They have the right to say no.
The other problem you have, guys, is that schools,
unless they're coerced,
they used to do elections at elections at schools. They used to use schools as polling places, and that now, because of all the security issues that schools understandably have, they can't do it unless they cancel school. And I don't think they wanted to cancel school for the day for this. So that's a state law that was passed a few years ago, that you can't have an election in a school building unless the school is unless schools are canceled for the day. So it's a tough thing. I agree. It was not handled as well as it should have. It should have been communicated better.
Poorly.
Yeah, I agree it was handled poorly, but I blame the county clerk.
You don't tell people that 3 or 4 days before or a week before.
Right. The county clerk knew.
Now you got to drive to a different town to vote.
Yeah, going from Lake Forest to White Deer Run, that's got to be a 20-minute. And I know it's at least 20 minutes because I've been late for golf matches there, and yeah. I'm speeding along.
I'm guessing that's a golf course.
Yes, it's a golf course. Yeah.
Okay. Then I wouldn't vote there. Thank God I'm not in Ward 3. So getting back to Skoo's point, if it's come November, it's up to the clerk, and it should also be up. Shouldn't the alderman be a little bit more? I know it's a precinct thing, but if this is your ward and these votes are going to really count, wouldn't you kind of take some ownership?
You would think that, but again, I think this falls on Anthony Vega and his office, that they chose not to reach out to anyone and just arbitrarily went with these places.
Gordon's a lot closer for any.
I would have done it at Gordon Center. I would have done it at Elloa, if Elloa could be used as a polling place. I mean, there's a lot of options that could have been done in Lake Forest. So I think, again, elections have consequences. And when you elect people to these county clerk jobs that have no experience running elections, you get stuff like this.
Purely a partisan. It was a purely partisan vote. The last two, as I said, Carla Wyckoff was the Republican. She was doing a great job. Everybody decided they hated Trump, so they voted out Carla Wyckoff. Who was very well experienced, very good at it, and put in Robin O'Connor. And Robin was doing, perfectly good job. And then they threw her out because they didn't like her party either. So now we got this new guy who has no experience at it. He was coming out of the sheriff's office, as I recall, and has no particular training in terms of being county clerk. But the voters hate Trump, so we get a new county clerk every 4 years.
I'm just saying to put these people, make them accountable by saying, hey, you know what? It's November. Easter's coming up. Put it at the rec center or whatever. At least get some paper trail from the alderman, whoever's keeping an eye on Ward 3, that, hey, this is going to come up. So if this comes up at the next election cycle, we can point to this podcast like we pointed to the bylaws. Fix it. All right, so we got the election coming out, gents, and I thought it would be a good idea to go through the candidates And I don't know what's a better way to do it. Do an old school Ben Franklin, like go over the main topics or the main issues or the main job functions of the mayor, and just go down the list who is better, or give a score out of 10. I haven't come to a conclusion how to score it. We're going to come up with it right now because this is going to be controversial. How do you think we should, Ben Franklin or scale 1 to 10 on the job functions?
Wasn't the caucus, which is the way the city nominates and puts people on boards and commissions, decide on Randy as the most appropriate?
They did, but they don't give the scores.
That's that's also the question: is did the caucus really do that or not? Because of the vote that was taken, they took a vote. The bylaws, 3.05 of the caucus bylaws, say that in order to approve something, it has to have a majority. Randy they didn't give it a majority in support. It's a real problem, and I think that we don't.
Thank you, Sheila Henrietta, for setting this up.
Yeah,
but
I question that. I question
the problem. Yeah.
Well, we've already questioned it. Let's get on to something new because people are going to tune us out. So let's just go over the job functions. Let's get an agreement on the job functions, and maybe we'll get into how we want to score it. All right, this is what I have for the job functions. Number 1, running a city council meeting. Number 2, integrity. Do they do what they say they're going to do? 3, agenda. Do they have influences other than what's best for Lake Forest? 4, experience in leadership. 5, public safety. 6, development.
Well, that's pretty good. Pretty good list there, Pete.
Okay. All right. So if we're okay on those 6 issues, because people aren't going to remember more than 7, like a telephone number. So those are the 6 things that are going to happen with the function of mayor. Do you want to go down? The quickest way is Ben Franklin. It's like, all right, we got 3 people. 3 people. First issue is,
do we have to have 3? Can we just do 2? I mean, there's really only 2 candidates. I hate to say that.
There's
against the guy, but
hey, come on, Paul Hamman eggs. That's my guy. but Ben Franklin is, the pluses and minuses. Who would be the choice? Who's the best choice of the 3 to run a city council meeting, and why?
The person that the caucus moved forward on the slate. I think that's Randy Tack.
Yeah. Well, I think Randy probably would be the best at running a meeting. He certainly had some experience in these things, and he's very clear and direct, which I think is necessary in running a board meeting. I think that people who kind of talk around issues at the edges and say nothing, which is one of the other candidates, is not going to do as good a job in running meetings with these various the 8 different aldermen on there. So I Randy certainly would be better prepared for that. Paul Hamman eggs, I know you love him, Pete, but he's really not got any experience to do this sort of thing. I mean, I would never vote for somebody to be mayor of one of these towns who hadn't served on the city council or the village board before, because you just don't have the experience, you don't have the depth of knowledge, and you don't know how to run the meetings.
Joe?
I would say, Randy, I think if you look at the debate, and you saw the way Randy answered questions versus the way Prue answered questions.
That wasn't a debate. That was
candidate forum, whatever you want to call it. I think, Prue tended to follow rather than lead. And, I don't want to bash Paul Hamman too much here. I'm sure he's a very nice man, but I mean, he literally froze during that debate for a minute before he could give his first answer. Like I said, nice man, well-intentioned. He has every right to run. My only concern with his candidacy is that he could potentially play spoiler if you get, if we get into that close of an election. But back to the question, I think Randy, and you got to remember something else with Randy. He is a managing partner, or has been a managing partner for Illinois Bone and Joint Institute. That's a multi-million-dollar operation. So I think he can lead a meeting much better than Prue.
Well, 3 times the revenue of Lake Forest, I believe, is what I've heard. So my 2 cents is, when Randy speaks, it's not word salad, meaning it's not a bunch of adverbs and adjectives, and there's a subject and a verb, and then that's it. That's kind of what I get from him. And he looks you in the eye and he speaks. And that's a big thing to me, because Prue Beidler, I've face to face, I've run into her 3 awkward appearances. I've seen her, and she's turned away, walked away. Now, it could be because, I'm gargantuan, and, or it could be because, I have some objective data that I question how she's running things. So, and she didn't come on the show. She's the only one that did not come on the show to state her point. So to me, I don't say cowardice, or maybe she's smart because she knows there's no upside, because she would, she has nothing to run on other than she's a Democrat and a female. So we'll leave it at that. Okay. So that's Randy on running a city council meeting. Another thing is, on running a city.
Isn't my
I thought you were just like a omnibus type of vote thing, is because the caucus voted him in.
Well, no. I mean, yes, but
continue, Skoo.
You got to understand that prior to all the crap about, the vote, whether it was done right or not, right? That's the big issue, that supposedly the caucus didn't vote properly to nominate. I do think, though, before that, the caucus did a pretty good job of vetting all the 20-some candidates that came through, and did all the proper interviewing and all that, and selected Randy over Prue for multiple reasons. So again, a manipulated vote was done to go against the caucus nomination because she didn't get nominated. So the person that, if you support the Lake Forest process and how things are done, nothing was done wrong. The proper person was vetted and selected, and that's Randy. Period.
And if you're in Arizona or Florida,
all you want against of the person, you can do it on your own, like Paul and Prue are doing. But at the end of the day, that's who was selected by the community who votes for the people on the caucus. Period. Done.
I did agree with the Tribune's editorial conclusion, which was that regardless of whether the vote, the problems with the vote, now smart voters need to focus on who will do the better job for the community, regardless of what happened last fall. This is a ballot, this is a choice, and I think smart voters will look at who will do a better job leading Lake Forest into the future. And I think that's clearly Randy Tack.
No, we get that. Okay, the caucus picked them. I get it. So what we're trying to do is our own little mini caucus interview here, because this is what happens when they come up with the vote. So they have, I don't know what their criteria was. I came up with, if I was back in the caucus for 1 year remaining, this is the 6 criteria that I would score everybody on, instead of a little strip of paper that you say yay or nay on when you hand it in. I would have an objective data point to say, and this is the job function, and this is what we're going to rate it on, and whoever rates the highest, gets in. So on leading a council meeting, they have to get those things that they can't run till 2 a.m. Can they, guys? So hopefully
they can if you do it wrong.
So I having watched a few of those, I think if you can get the what's the word, pontificating, out of there, and the grandstanding, cut that stuff. Randy would be the one. I think he would run a shorter, quicker, get to the point meeting. I think Prue would run Oh, we don't like 2 a.m. How about an all-nighter? Right. So we don't need that in a volunteer position. All right. On to the next point. Integrity. Does what they say they will do. Skoo.
Well, if anyone's talked to Randy, he's answers every question correctly with thought, and pretty much he's done what he was asked to do as an alderman, and I'm sure he'll continue that as mayor. Paul Hamman, I'm not going to even, yeah, whatever. But Prue, I mean, yeah, she waffles on everything. I mean, it's, if not one thing they're complaining about, then they flip the side and go after another. So I don't know. Again, Randy was selected the proper way by a committee that runs our Lake Forest government. I mean, they chose him over a person that was not selected for the third time. And people don't even talk about that. It's the third time. There are issues each time. She threw up red flags that she didn't get selected, and she did it again. The right person was selected, and that's who you should vote for. Or vote for whoever you want, really, but you support the process that has been running Lake Forest for 88 years. You can't go wrong with Randy. Or we can't go wrong with Randy, period.
I'm certainly in agreement that integrity is important in this job. It's unfortunate some of the commentary that I've seen, particularly on Patch, really attacking the integrity of not only Randy Tack without any basis at all, but also the integrity of the current mayor and other aldermen has been very unfortunate. This has been a very divisive election. Politics ain't beanbag, and people are entitled to have some sharp elbows, even in a local election. Although you should bear in mind, these are all local people. We do run into them in real places, and you do want to be civil in what you're doing. Certainly, some of Prue's spokespeople, Vernon and Moorhead in particular, I thought was way over the line in terms of attacks on integrity. Randy Tack has been a physician, a surgeon, a business person, a public servant for all these many years. The guy, he certainly clearly has integrity.
Joe?
Yeah, I think, the Moorhead attack on Randy was way out of line. I mean, the guy was late for a meeting because he was finishing up a surgical procedure, and they make that into an issue. I mean, come on.
He's bitter he didn't get, the nod for
right.
all of them.
I'm yes. So and then he but yeah, but on the integrity question, I think, again, you have to, this is a thing I've talked about repeatedly, but you have to look at Prue is of a mindset of just trying to buy everything. That's why I call her pay to play Prue. I mean, the $1 million in donations, the money to Kim Fox and Lori Lightfoot and Rahm Emanuel when her daughter-in-law was working for them. Now she's spending, over $100,000 of her family's money in this election. Her and her husband the contributions have traded off between the two of them and a couple other family members as well. But she's Prue, and she, some of her supporters point to some of the things in town where her name's on a plaque because she's given more money to something. I just have there's some serious ethical questions there of somebody not getting their way in a process 3 times and saying, you know what, this process be damned, even though I've been part of it for years and years. I'm just going to spend $100,000 and I'm going to pull out my Rolodex of people I've given money to over the years, like Susan Garrett, and have them come in, and Lord knows what other favors she's calling in between now and election day she's one of the top donors to the Democratic Party in this state. So, I mean, she can call in a lot of favors for this. And meanwhile, Randy's a guy who didn't really want this job. And, hasn't, the only money he's ever given to a candidate has been to the caucus, and a relatively small amount of money. So, I think that speaks volumes right there. The pay to play culture that she is going to try to inject into this, has injected into this. And, what happens when she becomes mayor with that is still up in the air.
Well, we'll get into the agenda part of that a little bit later, but look, the Jamie Moorhead thing. Hey, everybody, I was going to leave this to the side, but anything that I was going to leave this to the side, but if you can say anything about this show, you can say we are Dumb and Dumber, we are Muppets, you can, but integrity is always at number one. Okay. The only people that are buying our opinions are the ones that are spending $25 a month, and it's not that much of a buy. But Jamie Moorhead, just so you know, I quit the caucus because of Jamie Moorhead. Why? Because the caucus put Nancy Novid, because she was a female, ahead of him. And I protested that. And I told, hey, Jamie, why don't you stand up against the caucus? Because I will stand right with you, and you got a raw deal. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So all of a sudden, he must have went to a chiropractor and they found a backbone, and now he's doing all this other stuff. Okay.
Maybe an orthopedic surgeon.
That's right. So I'm just saying, these are the type of people. Look, the type of people we are, we look you in the eye. If you don't look us in the eye, then we got problems with you. That's the problem that I have with Prue. That's integrity. She said that if she didn't get the gig, she wouldn't run against the caucus. Not only is she running against the caucus, but she's pushing this thing up to $300,000, to the point where it's going to be a partisan election going forward, and maybe even moving this thing towards Highland Park. So that being said, Randy gets the nod for me on integrity. Number 3, agenda, influences other than what's best for Lake Forest. Joe, I kind of get where you're coming from. Rick, you want to start?
I'll be glad to. Actually, we'll go back to Mr. Moorhead again, who said that that Prue will take us to where we need to go, not where we want to go, and make Lake Forest into a shining city on a hill. This smacks of really bad policy, and having an agenda, having a very clear agenda other than running the municipal government of Lake Forest in a competent manner. Yes, clearly Prue has an agenda. Her spokesman says she has an agenda. And unfortunately, I think that she will try to take the city in different directions than what we have been in the past.
Skoo?
Agendas. I think Randy's only agenda is what's right for the city and how he can make it better and improve, and which is a good agenda if it's called an agenda. Prue, again, she ran. This is her 3rd time. She didn't get selected. She had an agenda, because she did say that it's time for a woman. So that's agenda 1. And she goes against, the whole premise on the caucus committee is checking your partisanship at the door, not having an agenda, and having enough time to serve, whether it's the caucus committee, the boards, the aldermen, whatever it is. Those are the 3. She has shown that she can't do any of those. And she had the support of the caucus for years as an alderman, and if it's not good for her, then it's not good. And she said she supports the caucus, but then again, she was saying, not in public, that she doesn't support the caucus. So she clearly has an agenda, and what's it going to be? If she gets elected, how are you going to implement that stuff? And the other thing is she can't get along with the city employees. That's going to be a big one. And, I think there's agendas behind that too, that people don't understand.
I'm going to take this next one and go back to Joe with it. Is it really Prue's agenda or is it Susan Garrett's agenda, Joe?
Well, it's certainly been raised into question. I mean, they seem to be glued at the hip. It's she, and if you look at Susan Garrett's record she took $150,000 from Mike Madigan, voted twice to reelect him as speaker, voted for the largest income tax in Illinois history. Is that the agenda of Prue if she gets in? We've seen these things happen. I've talked about this on previous shows. We've seen these things happen in other communities where after a while they start doing really crazy, dumb ideas like taxes on bags and taxes on cans of pop. And, just this past week on her Facebook page, there was someone who said, hey, you should look into a composting program. I've lived in other communities that have done that. And Prue's campaign, or whoever does her Facebook, clicked yes. And composting on its own is fine, but Skokie's doing that. And as a result of doing that, they got rid of that second garbage pickup each week. Now it's just once a week garbage pickup. And I think a lot of residents of Lake Forest would be very upset if we went to just a once a week garbage pickup and said, well, it's because you're going to compost more and stuff like that. I think there is some crazy ideas that she's embraced directly or indirectly that people need to think about. And, I've brought them up in the public forums of social media and stuff like that. If I had been her and I wasn't going to do those things, I would have come right out and said, no, I'm against taxing bags. I'm against getting rid of the second garbage pickup. I'm against
a lot of money to Tony Preckwinkle, the soda tax.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think there's some questions about judgment, and then we'll save the public safety debate, but just the thought that you would think that two candidates for state's attorney that are strongly disliked by every law enforcement organization in the state, that you would not just support but give thousands of dollars to, partially because your daughter-in-law worked in the office. That all of these things lead to me questions of her judgment. And I think she has poor judgment.
I mean, we don't know why she made those contributions. She made contributions to lots of Democratic politicians. It could be completely unrelated to her daughter-in-law's employment. I
certainly could, but you know what? Then it's been raised in the public forums, public debate. Address it. Exactly. If you don't address it, then what's going on?
But I mean, everyone donates to their causes and all that, so it's just I don't know. I don't really.
But Skoo, she's brought up
if you're running against the caucus in Lake Forest, guys, you have to raise money. Period. Just like the caucus has to raise money, and people screaming in Lake Forest, oh yeah, the caucus is garnering money enough. That's the whole idea. They have to raise money to fend off people running against the caucus. So that's a natural progression. Just like if you run against the caucus, you have to pony up your own money. And if you pony up $1 million to be mayor, and still people have to vote. And
she's brought up a couple times how previous mayors have given donations here and there, and I think Rob Lansing has given some donations, and George Pandelian gave like $200 to Julie Morrison or something. I looked it up, but I mean, these are small amounts. And again, everyone has political views. No one's denying that, but we've never had a mayor who has been a mega donor, a super donor, a hyper partisan donor like this. $1 million.
We don't know that.
We do know that. We can look at the FEC and state board records, and no one's given $1 million before.
You've gone back on every mayor in Lake Forest and checked
I've looked at the last few.
Okay.
I
There's
have
no one
too,
giving
so
a million.
I will vouch for that. But the next point,
And I would say the same thing about Dick Uline too. If Dick Uline or Liz Uline was running
it's
for
the
mayor,
same.
these issues would be brought up as well.
But Dick Uline ran for mayor. I mean, of Lake Forest. He certainly clearly that would be an issue.
Yeah, but let's throw this. You're saying if Dick Uline ran against the caucus, what if Dick Uline was selected by the caucus?
I think it would still be an issue. I mean, when somebody gives the kind of money,
I don't think he would be selected by the
Beidler
caucus because I think
causes,
the concerns about the partisanship would come up. And I don't have anything against Dick Uline. I don't have anything against Prue Beidler.
No.
I'm just saying, you know, when you get that up there in terms of partisanship, and you try to claim that you're a nonpartisan candidate, it's BS.
Where I'm going with that, well, the thing on the agenda is Prue's not doing this by herself. This is a well-organized.
Prue couldn't do it by herself.
That's kind of what I'm saying. So
all these people.
Right. So
and she demonstrated that at the forum when all she did was every time Randy spoke about issues or whatever questions you were asking, she was nodding in agreement. That's why she clearly cannot do what she did. And I would not say she could do what she did or what she's done going into businesses. That's not like Prue. Prue would never do that. But she's being coerced and coached to do that type of crap. Or if she doesn't want to do it.
That's kind of where I'm going with on the agenda part. It's part of a bigger, I don't want to say scheme, but the more money that you have involved, okay, when you have $1 million versus 0, okay, I take it back. Tack did donate to the caucus. All right, shame on him. But when you have
there's not 0.
0. Tack, Randy Tack, 0.
But it's not something that would indicate a particular bias or agenda, if in answer to your point.
If I had a gun in my head,
one person donates versus another person, that's not the issue.
Skoo, $1,000 versus $1 million. We're talking about agenda, and we got 3 candidates. Okay, one's given $1 million, one is given 0. I think the other one's given $200. Okay, I'm going to look at the $1 million. And then looking at who's running, who's the right-hand person, is a former Democratic senator that she ran on some certain things that at one point in time, I'm sure Highland Park was a great place to be at one time, and things changed. Okay. Maybe this doesn't happen in our lifetime, but if we're looking at agenda, of the 3, who would you vote on that doesn't have an agenda? I'm sorry, the $1 million sticks out like a sore thumb, and that's what I'll.
And again, I would vote on the person because I believe, and I live here, so I believe in the process that's been successful. So I don't even have an issue with agenda because Randy was selected, and I entrust my vote when I'm asked to pick my ward representatives that those people are going to do the right thing and vote. And they selected Randy by saying he doesn't have an agenda.
Okay.
So,
Skoo,
that's not really an issue for me.
Okay, but if you did,
but you know what? If you're running against caucus, you're going to have agendas. That's why you're running against the caucus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm going with. Yes. Yeah. So look, we have to pick who doesn't have an agenda of the 3. Okay. And like you said, the caucus weeded out Prue maybe because of the $1 million. Who knows? Same way you said Dick Uline, right? Okay, so
and Paul, your buddy Paul Hamman eggs. Paul Hammon's he's got a position. He's working on the grass field, and he's got an agenda.
Right, but he chose not to go through the caucus process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, no, he tried. They dinged him.
Oh, they just said no. They just said no. We're not going to.
Right. So maybe that's what.
I don't think he's qualified for the job.
He's not qualified.
Yeah.
He's qualified to be a supporter of the show. All right, moving along. I
mean, let's see. Anyone's qualified to run for mayor or council or any board commission, as long as you're raising your hand saying, "I want to volunteer."
Yeah,
if you want to talk about agendas, Pete, it's those people that go to the caucus committee or go to certain people and say, "Hey, I want this." That's an agenda, and that's what Prue did.
Right.
And that's where it's, Randy didn't do that. They came to Randy, the caucus, and people recommended Randy, prior aldermen and mayors, and all, you'd be good at it. Randy didn't go running to the caucus saying, "Hey, I want to be mayor." So there's a big difference there. Prue didn't get selected. There's other ex-aldermen that didn't get selected. Did you see them go run and say to Lake County and file and say, "I'm going to run for mayor"? That's an agenda. No. She got denied 3 times and still was told that's an agenda, and that's a big agenda that people don't even, all these people screaming about how mean everyone is to Prue and all, they don't look at the detail behind why that we're at this point. And we should never be at this point.
Well, I do think if there's more transparency on the choices, look, the caucus has to go through some changes. It's got warts. It's still compared to whoever has the most money, it's the best game in town. Number 4 thing we're going to look at is experience and leadership. Skoo?
Well, I think, again, I'm just going to keep falling back on who was selected, but Randy has the experience, as evident when he was on council. There's a big, in my opinion, if you're asked to lead a committee or commission or subcommission on the council, that's pretty big. Randy was asked to do that several times. And he also was asked off of the council to head up the Central Business District Development Master Plan. So from a leadership standpoint, number 1, he's demonstrated that as an alderman. Number 2, he gets along, obviously, with the city management team that is critical in all this that's not discussed. So from that standpoint, he again, backing up the caucus second. I'm sure they vetted that too, and they asked and got the same thing. Yes, that's why he was selected. On the flip side, I don't know any committee that Prue headed up as an alderman. I know she was co-chair of several. I was on a committee with her, the golf course committee that she was co-chair of. Actually, Tim Newman ran it as an alderman, headed that whole thing up in the golf course development thing. So, although she was part of some of the committees and all, she wasn't leading them. And that's a big thing for me. And that everyone should know is when you're looking for leadership, particularly a past alderman, what did they do as an alderman? How did they lead that way? And Randy stands head and shoulders above Prue on that.
Rick?
Nothing against Prue, but that's just fact.
Randy's got good experience in business, as well as in a profession, as a surgeon, as well as having served on the city council, and having led the Central Business District, which is particularly important to me as an effort. He clearly has the experience and the leadership abilities that it would take to be mayor. Prue Beidler has been on the council. I think she has the basic qualifications for the job, but on the other hand, I don't know. I think she does want to take us someplace, because once again, going back to her spokesman Moorhead, says that leaders take people where they don't want to go. And so I think she wants to take us where we don't want to go. I don't want to vote for that.
Leaders or bad leaders take us where we don't want to go.
Yes. Well, I think she wants to take us someplace where we don't want to go, and maybe it's the soda tax, and maybe it's other things, but it is not where I want to go.
Randy's a surgeon, and I don't know if you've ever had surgery or had a family member that's had surgery, but a surgeon just doesn't walk in and start chopping away. There's a whole team there. There's, some of these surgeries have 10, 15 people involved. I mean, he is a leader when leadership really counts. And I think that Skoo, you know him much better than me, and you've seen him in action, and you've seen these two in action. Leadership is not being a bobblehead and just saying, "Oh, I agree with everything," like Prue has done. I think we see more of that from Randy, both in his work experience, both from the business end of his partnership, as well as, again, leading a medical team through surgical procedures, and just the things he's done over the years on the council. And I do like the fact that he didn't really want this. You go back to in the history of our country, George Washington didn't want to be president. Sometimes the best leaders are the ones that don't really want the job.
And I just want to clarify, Joe, what you're saying too is it's not that because for some reason people hear bits and pieces of stuff. It's not that Randy did not want to be mayor. He wasn't running for mayor. He was asked to serve Randy, you did a great job serving before as alderman. There's several people that feel that you would be a fantastic person to run for mayor, to be our mayor. So yeah, I agree with you, Joe, but it's too many people kind of take snippets and say, Randy, yeah, technically wasn't looking to do this. And the city called him, and I should say our community called him and said, you would be great at it. And he said, contrast
that with Prue Beidler, who rejected 3 times by the caucus and is just spending whatever it takes. If Prue Beidler wins this election, she will have bought the election. Let's make that very clear. And I don't think of that as a leader.
Well, let's also want to make it perfectly clear too that there was strategy around it. When she got denied the previous 2 times, why didn't she run independently again? You know why? Because she knew she had no chance against the previous 2 caucus supported mayoral candidates. She felt, and she also, listening to the people she's hired, was that Randy was a prime one she could beat. Oh yeah, it's Randy. We can beat him. So that's why there's strategy around it. She didn't run those other 2 times. I want to know why she didn't do it then. And she chose now.
Well, getting back to leadership, and this is going to be a twofer because the next one is development. Didn't Randy lead something to do with development in the city?
Yeah, the central business district. Develop master plan.
So he led it, right?
Well, he's still leading.
Still, well, yeah. Right. Although they haven't really done anything, I will say.
Right.
It's been, they've been in the business for a while, but COVID really put them, I think, on the shelf for a couple of years.
Right, but they've turned that up full steam in the last several months.
They restarted the effort
by engaging the community and doing all that stuff.
Lake Forest needs help in the central business district. Clearly are looking down in the mouth. Although we've, fortunately, we have some great restaurants all of a sudden. Retail is looking very bad, but the restaurant business in Lake Forest, we are no longer a food desert.
By the way, Hometown opened up Monday.
Yes,
yeah, fantastic,
very good.
Go over there.
You knew who the first customer was?
Huh?
You know who the first customer was?
Who?
Dr. Randy Tack, leading the way.
I was there when he was. I was there right after that.
Well, I hope the Prue bots don't boycott them now because of that. So
good job.
Go in there. It's fantastic. It's got everything.
So Randy was asked to lead the central business district. Prue wasn't. There's a difference between leadership and salesmanship. If this was a race for salesmanship, okay, Prue, you win.
But can I add one more thing?
Yeah, please.
Randy was asked to lead the central business district development master plan and all that. When Prue's brought into being asked to do stuff? When it's a public-private venture where they need money, because she's very good at fundraising, as she's proven.
You mean writing checks?
That's a big difference. No,
That's
not writing checks because the stuff that she's co-chaired or whatever, the beach development, the golf course. Go look at those and how much she's donated to those causes.
Well, you can say whatever you want if you're selling something, because you can sell anything that anybody wants. Now, if you're going to lead, you don't have anybody behind you following you. You're just somebody out there for a walk. So I'm going into the development side. Does anybody else want to chime in on that? Because to me, that's where he would get the win right there.
Well, I would, Rick, I was a trustee, and I dealt with, development issues back in the day, and it's not easy. There's a lot. It's so easy for people to say, "Oh, we need more shops or we need more restaurants," and stuff like that. But there's an economic decisions behind that. People aren't just going to build something and lose money. So you have to be able to work with business people. And I think, I think Randy is better suited to work with the business community than Prue for a variety of reasons. One, he has business experience being a managing partner of a multi-million-dollar business. And two, I think Prue, if I'm a business person, I have questions about her, given some of the stances she's taken on things.
Wait, hold on. Do you call threatening a business a stance?
Well, that too. That's certainly one.
But that's a huge too.
I mean, she's given money to a lot of candidates who are very anti-business.
I want to know all those people that
$1 million people are very anti.
All those people supporting her and screaming for her. What's your stance on what she's done to these businesses that she's gone into?
No.
These are our neighbors. This is who we do business with, and they're going in and saying, we're going to boycott you.
I mean, Joe's got a very good point there. When you're running, all of these boards, the cities, development is a key issue. You're trying to balance in many ways because, after all, these are private property, and the owner of the private property is entitled within the zoning rules and other regulations to do whatever it is they want to do. And it's not the city's job to tell them, "Oh, landowner, you should have a restaurant, or you should have retail, or you should have services, or you should have residential." It is very a difficult thing that the city has to do to both try to envision where you want to go and get private property owners then to take you there. I did see, by the way, Libertyville many years ago, 20 years ago, did a great job on hiring. They hired a consultant called Main Street. And I was very active at the Chamber of Commerce in Lake Forest at the time, and we watched them Libertyville do this. And it was very questionable, but the city of Village of Libertyville hired this consultant, and they've had great success since then as a result.
Libertyville, wow, that was a big risk with Main Street.
Yes.
Thing, and how did it pay off?
Yeah, and Libertyville was proactive. Use the word.
And they were kind of dying, right, Rick?
Yes.
I mean, they were,
the car dealerships were having problems, and they were getting their lunch eaten by Vernon Hills, and yes, by hiring Main Street as a consultant, they went out and found additional businesses they wanted and promoted their restaurants and promoted their retail, and it's been a great success.
Yeah,
and it's not easy. And I think Randy talked about this in the candidate forum of there needs to be a market for a business to be there. Businesses aren't going to go there out of the goodness of their heart.
Right.
There has to be, and I think some of the Prue supporters out there are trying to make it out like this pro-development group is going to make big skyscrapers in downtown Lake Forest and stuff like that. And Randy has made that very clear that that's not what they're looking to do. Right. You ride the train. If you ever ride the train from downtown up to Lake Forest, and you see, once you get Evanston and all these different suburbs that are along the line, and you see like these, Evanston looks like it's like part of the city of Chicago now with all the stuff that's gone up there. And that's not what we're looking to do here in Lake Forest. But at the same time, you have to, clearly what we have right now isn't working because you have so few businesses. So there has to be it's a very delicate balance. And again, I think someone like Randy can thread the needle on that, leading with and working with business people.
Yeah,
the key is
I grew up in Highland Park, and Highland Park is today much more of an urban downtown than it was when I was growing up there. We used to call it uptown. It was,
but the key is with Randy, with the next mayor, not necessarily working well with businesses. Yeah, absolutely. More importantly, it's working well with city staff.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Randy really has the leg up, is because he's been doing this as an alderman as well as heading up the central business district. You have to work with head city staff, and
yes,
my understanding is they enjoy working with them and they respect them, and that's tantamount to the mayor.
I would think so. I mean, I think you meet Randy, pretty quickly this guy's a straight arrow. He's going to tell you what he thinks. He's going to be clear, and he has the experience to be able to make decisions. I think
he may not be the most gregarious person, but
yeah.
He has everything going. I mean, that's the thing, is some people have been complaining because he's like stoic and all this, but when you talk to him, he's a great guy. I mean,
one of the best endorsements for Randy is his wife, Paula Tack. Paula was a court reporter in Waukegan for many years. I knew her there, and she's always very well respected, very smart lady. Did a great job and an awful tough job. Court reporter is not an easy job. And the fact that she's married to him and has been for many years is a great endorsement to me. Yeah, public safety is a real problem now. It didn't used to be, but it sure is now. We're having a lot of break-ins. Right now, it's mostly cars that are getting broken into, but we're having more and more of just of violent crime in the area. We haven't had a lot, fortunately, in Lake Forest so far. There was remember there was a party out in West Lake Forest last year, I think it was, or the year before, and people got shot. And I don't think anybody was ever arrested for that. I never saw anything happen. We had this guy got murdered down on the lakefront in Highwood, Fort Sheridan area. And the guy was murdered in the fall, and now they're finally indicted the people who were there and were in a fight with them and confessed that. 6 months later, boy, the wheels of justice are cranking extra slow in Waukegan, and the mayor should be somebody who is going to do their best to keep the police morale up and have do everything we can to have adequate police protection in Lake Forest as the situation around us deteriorates. There's only so much that the mayor of a town can do. You can have police protection, and we need them to have it. Lake Forest does have that, obviously, but the mayor of Lake Forest does not prosecute criminals. That's the Lake County State's Attorney, and the Lake County State's Attorney has it was no longer as zealously prosecuting criminals as the previous Mike Neerheim had done, and this is a problem that we're in Lake County, and Lake Forest is not its own island.
They'll never say it publicly, but no Lake Forest police officer is going to respect a mayor who gave thousands of dollars to elect Kim Fox and Eric Reinhardt, and in Kim Fox's case, re-elect her and have her daughter-in-law on the office's payroll for a while. this is a philosophy. There's 102 counties in this state. 100 state's attorneys have disagreed with Kim Foxx and Eric Reinhardt on their methods of prosecution. And this is not a partisan thing. I mean, the Will County State's Attorney, Glasgow, he's a Democrat, and he's criticized Kim Foxx and Eric Reinhardt on a lot of issues. So, the police, we're hearing stories of the police arresting people as they should, but then the state's attorney choosing not to prosecute or getting him out, letting him out easy or prosecuting for a lower sentence. There's this whole criminal justice issue that's going on throughout the country there's these philosophies that, hey, if we're, on criminal justice, if we try this or try that, there'll be less crime. And it sounds nice in a classroom. It doesn't work. Police need to arrest people that commit crimes, and prosecutors need to prosecute them. Yeah. Prue Beidler has put herself front and center on this issue by choosing to be such a strong financial supporter of them. She can pose for pictures with that Lake Forest Police polo shirt all she wants and say she supports the cops all she wants. But the truth of the matter is that you support Kim Foxx and Eric Reinhardt. Yeah. No law enforcement officer is going to take you seriously. Yeah.
And when she did that photo take there, she got a ticket for loitering.
What? Why do you do that? Believe everything you tell me. So I thought you were.
He does. He does that.
He got you on that one. He got me.
Wow.
Well,
no, but I got to tell you, Joe, to your point, I've heard police with concerns of just what you were saying. So it's not a hidden thing. I think it's pretty prevalent that. Because that has been made an issue, that is a concern.
I mean, Kim Foxx the tragic shooting of that Chicago police officer a few weeks ago. The guy who did it had a previous run-in with law enforcement that Kim Foxx's office chose not to prosecute on. So I have friends. I don't have any friends in the Lake Forest Police Department, but I have friends in quite a few other police departments. I lost a friend who was a Chicago police officer many years ago. They're having trouble recruiting in some other towns that have anti-law enforcement mayors. They're not even being able to fill vacancies right now. That's how bad of a situation it is that they'll go somewhere else. They'll go to Florida. They'll go wherever. They want to work in a town where they feel the mayor has their back.
Well, we've had a lot of break-ins recently.
Yeah.
Right. So, and the break-ins are happening like right off of 60 in Deer Path. Is that right? Is that 60 there, or 41 in Deer Path? Where you can get on and off really fast. And then we have a train, and we have 2 trains in the city, so the gangbangers can hop on in Union Station or Ogilvy and say, "All right, I'm going to go shopping in Lake Forest." Hop out, and if they get caught. Let's just say it's shoplifting, whatever it is, they don't prosecute and say, you know what?
Well,
send more people on the train.
What they've been doing, you're right, Pete. What they've been doing has been gang initiation type stuff, is my understanding, is they stick these underage kids on the train and they go steal cars, and they, drop one car to get another one to get back downtown. And it's, can't prosecute.
Drive a few minutes north on Waukegan or Green Bay or 41, and you're suddenly in some unfortunately very crime challenged neighborhoods. And there's no gate at the Lake Forest border. No community is an island.
Even if you're a sailor, man, that poor kid, man, on St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, that's a terrible thing. Yeah. It is starting to look like maybe there is some kind of a serial killer out there. Because you keep having these young men, 24, 25 years old, leave a bar at night and end up in a body of water, Lake Michigan, the Chicago River, and the police, apparently have just checked that off to got drunk and drowned. But there have been quite a number of people now that have met this fate, and it seems like hard to imagine. You know, I've been at plenty of bars, and I've been out of plenty of bars at night, but I've never fallen into Lake Michigan afterwards, or Chicago River. I mean, it's you know, particularly in the wintertime.
It's a heartbreaking story, you know. And I'll just add one more thought on this.
Yeah.
Back when I was a trustee in Morton Grove in the 90s and early 2000s, we got to ride. I don't know if you ever did this, Rick, as a trustee, but we actually rode with our police a couple of times. And I'll tell you, you know, Morton Grove is a relatively safe community, relatively nice community, very nice community.
Yes. Yeah,
But I'll tell you what, when they pull someone over just on a routine traffic stop, they have no idea what they're getting into. And 99% of the time, it's just somebody speeding and, hey, here's their ticket. Thanks. Have a good day. But they don't know what they're walking up to. And that's why it's so important to have a mayor who is respected by police officers. And I just can't say that about Prue Beidler.
So can we say that public safety, Randy we check the box on?
You know, my dad has been gone for a while, but he was chief investigator of Lake County for 30 plus years. His mind would be blown by all the crap that's going on right now. Just unbelievable.
All right. So just going down the list. Okay. Randy. You can see why now you can say, oh, there's 4 old white guys, you know, giving their opinion, but there's been some objective. The Muppets, yeah. But I don't know where everybody else comes from, but where I come from is, you know, there's a forum where, you know, you can get 1,000 people to hear what you have to say, and you don't want to come on because you don't have anything to say. That says something. So, so Randy, across the board. The other thing I want to get to is there was an email that was just sent out by somebody from District 67. Rick, do you want to talk to that email just because people are asking me, hey, is this true? Is this true? Is this true?
Yeah, it was from William Anderson, I think it was the name, that he thinks that as a result of the problems with the caucus vote last fall, that the caucus needs to create an independent body to monitor caucus elections. I mean, this is one of the goofier ideas I've heard. I mean, like the caucus is going to create a different entity that is then going to monitor the caucus's elections. That's what? This was.
Please don't make it the Lake County clerk.
Yeah, really. I mean, like, talk about an overreaction and insisting that the caucus board needs to all resign and they need to all apologize.
The president and the vice president. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. But
I do. Well, they're going to have new leadership anyways because they change every year anyways. And yes, they will have new leadership. And yes, you've heard me be critical of how they handled the vote. In 2007, I was on the village board running for re-election, and the caucus in Lake Bluff, the people who interviewed did not like me because they wanted Stonebridge, and I was very much opposed to Stonebridge, so they voted against me. But then we went to the town meeting, which is very similar to the annual meeting that the Lake Forest Caucus has. And yeah, we brought people out. I mean, I asked people to come out because they were also concerned about the Stonebridge development. And I ended up being, I won the 3rd spot. There were 3 positions. And I was the 3rd one, and I was therefore the caucus endorsed candidate, or a caucus endorsed candidate, one of the 3. And it was a close vote, but the result of that was that the caucus did not run as a group slate as we always had before, and we did have a split, and we did have a contested election, and I was elected. It's kind of interesting, by the way, the difference between the caucus vote and the election vote and you may pay attention to this, because the difference between the caucus vote and the election vote was all the three people who won the caucus vote also won the election vote. The only difference was your friend John Josephitis, also a sponsor, he came in like fifth at the caucus, but came in fourth in the election, defeating a sitting trustee at the time. First time a sitting trustee had been defeated in Lake Bluff forever. So these annual meetings, these meetings are important. The vote is important. I can see why the caucus had a problem, in that the bylaws don't say what do you do if the recommended candidate doesn't win. It wasn't.
The question is, why was it changed in 2016, Sheila Henrietta? But we'll get to that. We'll get to that later.
No,
hey guys,
it doesn't say what to do.
Yeah. Hey guys, I sent you a quick email that our buddy just put out, and while you guys are reading it, I'm going to read this a little bit. At the end of the day, we need everybody to come out and vote. I know it's spring break. I know there's other things that you like to do. And one of the businesses that stepped up to help get the vote out, because the highest vote I've seen is around 4,000 votes for mayor. And I have a feeling that we're going to need another 25% more to come out to deal, because we have the referendum as well. So people are going to be interested in it. And Mary Greub over at Gerhards, one of the original businesses that had the pleasure of meeting Prue Beidler, she is going to help get the vote out by offering a I voted cookie. Now, how do you get this I voted cookie? You show your proof. It's a sticker. It's an email. It's your word. Just come on in, see good old Mary. And I think she's going to have me wear a big old hairnet back there. And I'm going to be, mixing up a nice batch of cookies. But everybody that votes, come on in for that free I voted cookie. We'll edit that out in post.
Is Susan Garrett welcome? Just kidding.
Oh, she only gets half a cookie.
I'm sure Mary would turn the other cheek and be very welcoming.
Absolutely. Yeah, so our buddy Prue Beidler, I have Prue on the mind because she put us on her mailings again. Does anybody want to have any comment on that?
What did it say?
I just got it as we're doing the show.
Are you talking about the good government is boring government quote?
Yeah. I assume that's what you're talking about. Clearly, we have one candidate, Prue Beidler, who wants to take Lake Forest in a different direction, to not be boring, to make this a shining city on a hill or whatever. And whereas Randy Tack does want boring government, he wants the city to do city business. And that is, frankly, I think, a better position.
For having $1 million, you think you would get a better production facility than Digital for Dems that put out this. Now, I am known for shoddy video and my production quality.
Exhibit A, yeah.
Thank you, Counselor. So I guess what I'm going to do is we summed up, hey, we went through 6 objective points and we gave our thoughts why, if we're on the caucus, that should be the things that we talk about and who we vote for. I haven't been in the caucus a while, neither is Skoo or Rick for a while. So I'm guessing that is what should have happened. So now the vote is going to be on Tuesday of next week. We're going to try to get together Tuesday night, maybe Wednesday morning. I don't know. We'll see what the votes are like. We'll be on call, but I'm going to do my best. Besides helping Mary Greub bake cookies, I am going to try to get this thing edited as fast as possible to put out, so we won't have a Saturday morning show. We'll get this will be a Wednesday show as fast as I can get it out. The internet went out in the middle of the show, so it might be a little bit choppy. It might look like one of Prue Beidler's email, but no, It's me. It's really me. Does anybody have any final note? Skoo, you look like you're getting sick there. Your internet's going out too? Yeah, it's funny. You're such a funny guy. Guys, any last words besides Skoo's Dumb and Dumber impersonation?
Okay.
Well, I just hope that everybody gets out. I mean, I hope that the turnout is good. I think that if the turnout is strong, that the voters will do the right thing. I'm very optimistic, and I think that, but it depends on the voters turning out.
Yeah. Well, you got spring break.
I was just gonna say, elections have consequences, and
protect your vote.
I think people complacency sets in, and only the people with agendas vote, and they're going to wake up Wednesday morning and then in the next few years find things happening that they didn't want to have happen.
Yeah.
You heard it here first, or last. Gentlemen, thank you. The Fine Crack Political Team. See you next Tuesday or Wednesday morning. We'll see. May the best
person.
Thank you.
Best candidate. How's that?
Best candidate.
Best candidate.
Paul Hamman Eggs. I'm fighting for you, man.
All right.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
The Lake Forest Podcast is supported by viewers, listeners, and businesses just like you. Looking for the best pool supplies? Look no further than Dohany's Pool Supplies. With a history dating back to 1967, this family-owned business offers everything families need to keep their pools clean and sparkling, from chemicals to equipment. Plus, customers enjoy free shipping on all orders. Visit Dohany's Pool Supplies today at doheny.com, DOHENY.com, to learn more. Forest Bluff Real Estate Team serves Illinois, Wisconsin, Lake Forest, and Lake Bluff. John Josephitis, Laura Lee Van Fleet, and of course, Michelle Parnell. Get a free market analysis now at forestbluffrealestate.com. For the best cannabis in the world, look no further than Iliad Epic Grow. Owned by Lake Bluff's own Rich Ruzich, they are a cannabis cultivation center focusing on hard-to-find small batch products that will delight both the occasional user and ganjier. When visiting Michigan, ask for it by name. Epic Products, exceptional process. For more information, email info@iliadgrow.com. Havey Communications has been helping first responders arrive safely since 1983. It's owned by Lake Forest's own Mike Havey. Check them out at haveycommunications.com. Paul Hamman, candidate for Lake Forest Mayor, April 4th, 2023. He's a lifetime resident of Lake Forest, licensed professional engineer in Illinois, registered energy professional in Chicago, Purdue electrical engineering graduate, BSEE 1979, commodity trader for over 40 years. He's running on the issues of stopping the plastic grass in Lake Forest parks, because every 10 years the plastic field needs to be replaced because of deterioration and wear. Email paul.hammond.pe@gmail.com. We'd also like to say we're thankful for our Patreon supporters: Matt A., Elizabeth C., Costa, Lance, Otto, RDM, John C., and Mike Adelman. Shout out to the Lake Forest Breakfast Group, Broad Stop and Captain Mike's in Kenosha, the Greentown Tavern, and the Frolic Lounge in Waukegan.